Welcome back to See Him at Sunrise. It's time to hear from the youth in our Tuesday Youth Forum discussion. The topic for this week is the dating thing. And we discuss this with Sanisha Parsons, a public health student at the University of Technology, Iraqi Carr, a logistician, and Strycen Williams, a business consultant. Welcome, Strycen, Iraqi, and Sanisha. I'm working through the names. Before we get into the meat of the matter in terms of the dating game and the dating scene, we just had an interesting segment about unconscious biases. So another one that I clearly have is an unconscious bias for persons with standard names like Mary, Joan, Paul, David. So I'm going to touch on the fact, Iraqi, your name is a nationality.
Yes.
What was that like going to school?
It was good for me. Why? Because I didn't meet somebody that did not like my name. So that was kind of good for me.
So you had one of those automatic privileges that our previous guest was speaking about. And we're going to go straight now into the discussion about the dating scene. And really and truly, is it any different this generation versus previous generations? Do you check against a list of preset conditions before you say, I'm going to enter into a relationship? How do you approach it?
For me, well, you know, the normal question is, do you have a type?
Yes.
And you might say no, but really and truly, when you check it, you do have a type. You have preferences.
Yes.
For women, they want somebody, for example, who's financially secure most times. Somebody who's handsome, you know.
And she looks at Iraqi. Two of us on the set, and she looks at Iraqi. You see, that's a bias, because if I did name, I don't know, Mozambique.
Sure, man, you're good, you know. They want somebody sometimes who's liked, who's sociable.
Yeah.
Those are some preferences that I know I have, but one thing I can say a lot of females have is the financial security, and being able to provide to a certain level, and pleasure and all of that. Pleasure, provide, protect, that kind of stuff. So
the 3 Ps.
So we really do have a list in our heads without actually knowing it sometimes.
What about you, Saeed?
I think around the same qualities. I mean, first off, you have to be attracted to somebody. So as the previous interview, you want somebody tall, muscular, somebody who will look strong and like a protector. Because I personally am like 5'3". I wouldn't want to date somebody shorter than me. That would be kind of weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and somebody who's smart, somebody who can provide for you, or else you might spend your entire life trying to provide for them.
Right. Before I come to Iraqi, but do you see it as sort of a 50-50 kind of approach in terms of protection and providing, or do you still see primarily that's the male's role to provide and to protect?
I don't think so, because if you love something, you're going to want to protect it naturally. So it should be around 50-50, but then again, I guess it depends on your emotions towards the person.
Right. Right. Iraqi?
I totally agree with the females though, because the males that protecting is one of their main jobs. You feel the ladies feel secure, you know, and support for support. You can't be the person that you don't support the other one, so both parties should be supporting, you understand?
But you just said support for support. Neither of the other two guests mentioned the other side of the equation. They want to be provided for, they want to be protected. You're now saying support for support. So if this was a conversation like for selecting a date, you would have just gotten an X beside your name because you're expecting them to contribute.
Not necessarily. I mean, in today's world, with all of us saying we're millennials and all of that, and we're modern women, and you have persons pushing for gender equality, you find out a lot of women are now preparing themselves to be the provider if needs be. So you even have new concepts like house husbands now versus housewives before. I mean, I personally, I want to be in a position where if something should happen, if husband is no longer in picture or child of my father is no longer in picture, I should be able to provide. And so you find that a lot of women now are putting themselves in those positions to be provider, irregardless of whether or not a male figure is around.
You make the point about millennials, and we hear it a lot. Would it surprise you, though, that the qualities that you have just described are the qualities that have been around for not just millennials, but for millennia? So if you go back to what they like to describe as the time in the caves, the man, his job was to provide. So he was a hunter and a gatherer, while the female was the nurturer. So it really hasn't changed that much. Instead of being able to now kill a beast, you know, look on the car that the man drives and his salary. So how does that make you feel to know that as a millennial woman, you are operating exactly how women for millennia have been programmed? Which of you wants to take that one first?
For me, though, I don't think so, because based on what was there before, where you're told about the times when the man would go out to the farm and come home to the woman with the baby and all of that. It just doesn't feel like that was the case back then, because if you find a lot of widows who once a husband died and there was no insurance and all of that, then it fell on the community to provide. I mean, there's a lot of pride and ego going around these days. A lot of persons are trying to prevent that from happening. They don't want to have a GoFundMe account just to send the child to school, or to ask family or the community to help the child to go to school. So it'd be weird to find out that that's a fact, because that's not something that I have observed or persons around me have observed and
noted. You don't subscribe to that?
No.
The matter of ego came up. Linked to ego is actually other people's perceptions of who you might choose as a husband or otherwise a spouse. How much stock do you put on society's views as to the typical family of 2.8 children? And I've never met a 0.8 child, by the way. Biases about choices, what are those quality decisions that we make about who we choose to date? And in this segment, we're going to also touch on the whole matter of red flags. What's that red flag for you that once you see, that's it, you're gone?
Well, for me, narcissism is one of them. A lot of persons are narcissistic without even knowing it.
But how do you see the amount of pressure you put on? First, he has to be able to declare and show confidently that he can provide and protect and all of that, and then know the very act of proving that is the red flag, because then he might appear narcissistic.
Yeah, you don't need to be pushy or bossy or manipulative, because you do find that a lot of young people, oh my gosh, they're so manipulative. They find ways to make you feel like, all right, if you don't do what I would have wanted, then that's it, or that's the reason why we're not having a good time, or the reason why I'm doing this to you and hurting you, it's all your fault. That's a red flag.
What are your red flags?
Personally, I like a gentleman. So if you're not doing simple things like, you know, holding the door open,
That still keep?
Chivalry. It ain't dead.
Okay, it ain't dead. Imaki, do you hold the door open and allow ladies to go in? Okay. Always. What you were saying.
So basically, I would observe how you treat other women.
Yeah.
So, say for example, we're taking the bus and we're sitting there comfy and the woman comes in. And even worse if she has like luggage, groceries, or say she's pregnant.
Yeah,
or
I saw something on social media last week about a full bus, what appeared to be a full bus, and a lady who appeared to be pregnant, very pregnant in fact, was standing, and there's a lot of commentary about those men who were seated in the bus. So if you are sitting with your date or your prospective date, and a lady comes in the bus in that, you know, who's pregnant, and he doesn't stand and offer the seat, that's a red flag. Yeah,
because I'm then going to get up and offer her the seat, and then it will just look bad on him because he's the man.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would either directly confront him about it, or I would just say, oh, so, you know, I have to go.
The exit.
Yeah, I can just imagine. So the bus is moving from Halfway Tree to Crossroads. You're probably going to go to Carib, and then just about Holy Cross. By the way, something came up. I have to go. And you exit, and him gone by himself because he did not display
That's a big red flag. If you can't treat a pregnant woman like that, how are you going to treat me or your daughter? I think that's just going to send that's just a bad role model, for example, for a son, because when we women date, we don't think about in the moment. We look at you as the possibility of being a life partner.
Right. You have a lot on your shoulders to balance. All of Jamaica is watching. You have to prove that the millennial gentleman is alive and well.
I agree with Sanisha on that one, but before I go even that far, based on the 2 points that these two ladies just it all comes down to interest.
Yeah.
When you're just meeting a person, you have to can notify the level of interest that they have in you before you even go that far. So you have an idea of what to come. You understand what I'm saying? So if I'm speaking to this lady right here, and let's just say persons are now phone addicted. Like I'm chilling with you, and you're there on your phone and our time. You understand? And like, just to say, I normally text you and you take 4 hours to reply or forever to answer my calls. But yet, say when we are here, you are on your phone all the time. Yeah. So you can just notify those levels of interest before you even go that far.
It sounds like experience.
I was gonna say that. But
yeah.
Back to what I'm saying. So when you can identify that interest, you can say, well, all right, because if a man is interested into a woman, he's going to do everything on the right things to impress her.
So there was this movie about 10 years ago, He's Just Not That Interested in You. I think that was the name of the movie. And it spoke to stuff like that. It was a group of women advising a friend of theirs that if they have to be doing all of these things to get the man's attention, he probably is not interested in the first place.
Yes.
So you try early to determine the extent of the interest before you determine how much of yourself, how much of your chivalry, how much of your protection you are going to signal to them that you know could exist.
Right.
But that movie actually pointed out a lot of red flags.
Yeah.
One of the biggest red flags, one of the questions you need to ask yourself is this person able to commit to me?
Right.
Are they married? Or in a relationship? That's a big red flag. That's a lot of women ignore. Yeah. And they think they can change the situation.
But let me ask a question now. That movie and others, going back to society's eyes, ears, and mouth, are young women and young men being programmed by social media, by traditional media, movies and magazines, to expect an ideal that just does not exist? So you set men up to fail because they're trying to compete with something that no real living man represents.
I don't think so. Like the saying goes, every hoe of them take a bush. So I think we're willing to compromise with certain things.
Yeah.
So say I wanted somebody funny initially, but you know, I get somebody that's not so funny, but he makes up for it in other ways, then that should be fine. You're
willing to give and take within a certain parameter.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that it's not going that direction. It's going the other direction where women are now, well, not just women, men too, are now willing to compromise and date married men and basically take whatever they can get because, especially women, they're of the mindset that
man shot.
Yes.
And that's not the case.
And then the trouble of finding a good man. So they say, okay, she have a good man and they're married, but I'll just date him too so we can share a good man. And though
which is the definition, therefore, that he's not a good man. If
right, exactly.
Red flag, instant red flag. What would be that instant red flag for you in the same vein? Because men are also programmed by traditional media, movies and magazines to expect an ideal that just does not exist. So you set men up to fail because they're trying to compete with something that no real living man represents.
I don't think so. Like the saying goes, every hoe of them take a bush. So I think we're willing to compromise with certain things.
Yeah.
So say I wanted somebody funny initially, but you know, I get somebody that's not so funny, but he makes up for it in other ways, then that should be fine. You're
willing to give and take within a certain parameter.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that it's not going that direction. It's going the other direction where women are now, well, not just women, men too, are now willing to compromise and date married men and basically take whatever they can get, because especially women, they're of the mindset that
Man shot.
yes.
And that's not the case.
And then the trouble of finding a good man. So they say, okay, she have a good man and they're married, but I'll just date him too so we can share a good man. And though
which is the definition, therefore, that he's not a good man.
Right, exactly.
Red flag, instant red flag. What would be that instant red flag for you in the same vein? Because men are also programmed by society differently. You are not supposed to give up, which is also an issue in the Jamaican circumstance. Because when you look on the Me Too movement overseas, where sexual harassment, which is never funny and is always serious, is getting a lot of prominence. The issues that could get somebody in trouble in Canada or in England or in the United States for sexual harassment, in Jamaica, men cross those boundaries just to say good morning. Is it changing here? Do you feel that pressure, Iraqi, that you have to be careful in the signals you emit to a woman because you don't want to cross the line into what then is no longer affection but harassment?
To be honest, here in Jamaica, you do not feel that pressure. But in other countries, you do.
Right.
Because in Jamaica, you're free. You understand? And I think we men take advantage of certain situations in Jamaica, to be honest.
Right.
So we are on the street and like we are here with our lady and we saw somebody else and we just do whatever we want. You understand? But in another country where the culture is different, you don't do that.
The culture and the laws.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know if you know of a recent scenario where a young man posted a video with a popular celebrity locally. She gave him a dance. And I thought he was fine, you know, he took what he got.
Something came out of it?
Well, people were saying that he should have done more.
Yeah.
He didn't go hard enough, he fumbled the bag. And then I'm like, but these are the same persons, if he had done more, would have probably said that he did too much.
If you were to do a survey, was it women who were telling him that he did not go far enough, or was it men?
Mostly men.
Really?
Mostly men.
I
were saying
want
if it
you
was
to check
me.
those
No, I saw
comments
some
again.
women too. I saw some women too, and it was a bit shocking. But I saw mostly men saying that if it was me, I would have done this. I would have gone harder, you know.
Yeah.
But then I'm saying, well, if this guy was being accused of harassment or assault or whatever, you wouldn't hear them. They'd be silent. You know, I think he took what he got. He was fine, he was happy, she was happy, they were both comfortable, move on. They had a great time. That's a good time. He doesn't need to do any more as far as any of them are concerned.
Right. Now, in terms of the final question for each of you, in terms of approaching decisions about leadership in society, what are some of the biases, if any, that you consider as to who should lead, for example, an organization or a nation?
Well, I can actually agree with Dr. Palmer that there are biases that we can see where men are preferred, for example, and the kind of men to the tall, dark, you know, debonair kind of character, which you might find sometimes just a lot of fluff. He has the look but not the backbone, you know. Plus,
somebody balloon just bust.
plus you might find that I mean, even sometimes like persons aren't qualified, but because I know you and I'm comfortable with you, networking wise, then I'm chosen for the job. So,
what about you, Iraqi?
The bias. I think men should be leaders because of their character. Why? Because a man knows to control his emotions. So if you're in an organization, there is a high percentage of chance that a man might go into some sort of relationship problems or issues and you might not know. But when you have a leader a woman leading your organization, there is a possibility that you might know what's going on, and that might affect the channel.
Hold on a second. Guys in the control room, please to get the paramedics to 69 Constant Spring Road, please. Iraqi's gonna make it out of it.
yeah, but even before, to address that issue though, I really believe that emotional intelligence and critical thinking is something that should be taught in schools about men and women.
Yeah, because that's such a stereotype.
Shots fired. What's that Rihanna song called? Man Down. Final thoughts to you.
I mean, he threw me off. I forgot the question. I mean...
Go ahead.
I don't necessarily think men make better leaders. It has been shown over the past, I wouldn't even say couple years, couple decades, that the women are now coming to the forefront and they're leading. If you look in political organizations, if you look at the top of businesses, the CEOs, they're no women. Women are even becoming taxi drivers, for heaven's sake, and I would never expect that as a kid growing up.
Well, we're going to one of Jamaica's leading women. It's now time for the morning edition. The news with Whitney Levy follows. More CVM at sunrise after we come back, and a medical alert for one Iraqi car. As I know something is going to happen during this break. See you after the break.